Well, hello there and welcome to the channel. My name is Derek and today we're going to be talking about the Roland Fantom. Come on, Roland. All right, so here we are now and we are sitting in front of the Roland Fantom, and today I'm just going to be talking about something that really bothers me about the Fantom. And it is really the way they have the polyphony set up and the architecture there, because I find that to be awfully crippling oftentimes when I am playing. Now, before I get absolutely crucified in the comments, I just want to say this. I really do like the Roland Fantom. It is my main keyboard in the studio. It's always set up in my studio and ready to go. I use it more than any other keyboard in my studio. The next keyboard that kind of rivals it would be the RD2000, but the RD2000 is actually connected to the Roland Fantom. So I use the RD2000 mostly for its key bed, but I use a lot of the features and everything inside of the Roland Fantom. It runs my studio. Whenever I'm doing any kind of serious studio work, I'm using the Roland Fantom to some degree. So I want to say that. And then also, as far as a gigging keyboard, this is now the main keyboard that I also gig with as well. There's no other keyboard that I own that I gig with more than the Roland Fantom. So don't hear this as just me just bashing the Roland Fantom, bashing Roland, bashing whatever. I actually use this keyboard quite a bit, and it is my main workhorse now for all of the music that I play. With that said, a critique is the polyphony. As you can hear right here, you could hear the notes kind of cutting out. The pad kept going, but you could hear the actual piano it just cut out. Okay, you're getting notes and stuff that are cutting out. Now I just want you to see exactly what I'm working with here. So let me just go to my zone view, and let me hit this one more time. That's too many. There we go. So we got my zone view here, and it's actually what you're working with. What I'm working with is three different sounds. I have a sound called the classic piano, which comes from the supernatural acoustic piano sound set. And then I have on channel number 2, I have the RD1000 sound. And then on channel number 3, I just have a basic soft pad, both of those coming from the Zencore sound engine. Okay, so that's what I have set up. Is three sounds. Now, a few workarounds that you can do. First of all, it's the Roland Fantom. It has the V piano sound engine. So instead of using the classic this classic piano out of the supernatural acoustic piano's sound engine, I can just come over here and I could select a V piano instead. So now I'm using the V piano, and there are not going to be any notes cutting out. And the reason for this is because the V piano sound engine actually has unlimited polyphony. So I can lay on all the keys all at once and none of the notes are going to cut out. That's one of the great features about the V piano sound engine. So no notes will cut out. So basically just pick a different piano, use a different engine. It's on its own BMC chip, and you don't have anything to worry about. No notes are going to cut out. The issue with that is scene remain. So if I come back to my select, go back to my scene remain here. If I switch scenes, the V piano is going to actually cut out because scene remain cannot be used with the V piano sound engine. So if I hold the notes down and switch scenes, the piano goes away. Because with the V piano sound engine, you can't do that. Now with the regular acoustic, not the regular acoustic, but the supernatural acoustic sound engine, if I switch scenes, the piano sustains as well. So that's something I'm going to lose. I will not have the ability to do scene remain if I decide that I'm going to use the V piano instead. Now let's say, hey, maybe that's not really an option. Well, I can always come in here. Let's go back to my zone view and let me pick, let's see here. I'm going to pick my RD1000 sound, select it. Let's just turn it up so we can hear it. Perfect. So what I can do here is I can come to my menu and I can go to my tone edits, and underneath structure here, I can have access to the partials. Now the partials are basically, they're oscillators. Roland calls them partials, but industry-wide, what they really are is oscillators. They are the smallest units of sound that can be played from your keyboard. And the RD1000 is actually made up of three partials, right? Now I happen to know that this last partial here, partial number 3, is just this sound here, and it's only on the upper register. It's not down here on the upper register. So I could decide, hey, you know, I don't really need that partial, so I could turn that partial off and just leave the other two. And what that's going to do is it's going to actually, you know, preserve some of my voices that I have to use, right? And then I could do the same thing. I can come over into number 3, which is going to be the soft pad. So this has 2 partials. 2 of them are on, 2 of them are off, right? I can actually turn off, let's just turn off partial number 2. So I could do that and just remove that partial there and see if I can live with that sound, and then, you know, layer them all back together again and see if I'm still getting the same issue with, you know, notes and stuff like that cutting out. The only thing here, one more thing I want to show you is, let's go back to my tone edit, and we'll just go to number 1, my acoustic piano. Actually, because it's a part of the Supernatural acoustic sound engine, I don't have access to the partials, and so I can't actually cut out partials on the piano itself. So that's another option that you can use in other workarounds to make sure that you get enough polyphony. The only thing when you do that is you are losing a part of your sound, and maybe the partials that you decide to cut out it might be something you actually want, right? So your sound is going to change, especially the more partials you remove off of various instruments and stuff like that. So yes, it's an option to remove partials. That's something you can do, but it's going to be a compromise because you are going to lose lose the way your instrument sounds. Okay. So you're not going to be able to play, you don't just layer the sounds together and just use them as is. You might have to make some compromises as far as sound is concerned so that you can get out all of the notes. Now, here we are here. So I just want to explain something about the partials. Let me go to number 2. And so here's the thing. So in the Zencore sound engine, if you look up the specs, it is capable of up to 256 voices. 256 voices of polyphony. And when you hear that or see that, you think of it as, wow, that's a lot of polyphony, or that's pretty good, so I should be okay. But in actual practice, it actually operates more like 128 voice polyphony. And that's because every single partial, right now, what am I doing here? I'm on the RD1000. Every single partial is actually using 2 voices. It is impossible to play one voice in the Roland Fantom. Every partial requires a left and a right. So this particular sound, because it's using 3 partials, if I hit up here, I'm actually using 6 voices every time I hit a note. Now, from down here, I'm using 4 voices for every note. Okay, so that's what's being used here. 4 voices or 6 voices. If I come over into my soft pad and I turn it on the way it's supposed to be on, when I do it that way, I am actually using, every single note is using 4 voices. So if I'm hitting a chord up here, what I have to understand is that the RD2000 or the RD1000 is going to be using 6 voices, and this is going to be using 4 voices, which means this is a total of 10 voices for one note. If I hold down, 2 notes at one time, you see where this is going. Now we're up to 20 voices. Now we're up to 30 voices. Now we're up to 40 voices, right? So just when I'm hitting here, I'm up to 40 voices. Now that's not counting however many voices the piano is taking up. We can't tell how many voices the piano is taking up because we don't have access to the partials, because it's just clearly it's not built the same way. So it leads to voices and stuff like that dropping out. Now, another option that we do have, let me go back to my acoustic piano here. I'm going to go to my menu and I'm going to go to zone edits instead of tone edit this time. And underneath voice reserve, you can actually edit your voice assign mode. So right now the default is it's set to limit. And I believe when it's set on limit, it will automatically cut out your lowest note. When when you're playing up, if you're playing up here and a note needs to be cut out or something, it's going to cut out your lowest note, I believe it is. So either cuts out your lowest note or cuts out your first note. Now you can put it on single, right? And it's going to limit it even more, or you can put it on full. Now, full means it's going to let your keyboard, whatever, ring out as much as possible and just use the full polyphony. It's not going to hinder anything in any way, but still, you still get the same issue even when it's on full. So for this particular patch, for the particular piece that I played in the intro, adjusting the piano to full doesn't really solve our problem. But depending on what you're playing, you may be able to come in and set some of them to full and whatnot, and you will get, you'll get some better polyphony out of it. So it does give you some options as far as what you can do to kind of control some of the polyphony and make sure that you can get all the notes and stuff that you are looking for. So here is my issue. So this keyboard here, it's supposed to be is listed at up to 256 voice polyphony, but what we actually know now is that functionally speaking, you are working with 128 voices. I did show a few different workarounds that you can do. You can switch and use the vPiano sound engine. Of course, you're going to lose your scenery main. You can remove some partials, and when you remove partials, of course, you're going to be losing part of your sound. But it may be an option depending on how you're stacking your different sounds together. You can go in and you can change the the piano, the voice reserves. You can change it to full and see, maybe that'll give you some more notes. Of course, there's always you can just play less notes, or you can use less sustain, right? So just modify the way you're playing. So you can change the sounds, or you can change the way you play in order to get the notes, okay? Now, the thing that really bothers me is that this keyboard, the Roland Fantom, is the flagship Roland keyboard. It is the flagship Roland keyboard. You cannot get a better workstation made by Roland than the latest Fantom, or a more powerful, I shouldn't say better, because better is, a matter of opinion. But currently, of the keyboards that they're manufacturing, this is their most powerful workstation. This is their flagship. And so you buy a flagship, you use the Supernatural acoustic piano, and you load 2 other sounds in there as well. and you want to play them all at once, and you want to play it like a piano, and the keyboard doesn't have the power to actually keep up with you. This keyboard, I believe, currently on Sweetwater right now, it is $3,899, basically $3,900, and that's before tax. In my area, we have to pay tax. So, any area that's going to be paying taxes, you're going to be, over $4,000 or right about $4,000 for this keyboard. And this keyboard is going to cost even more if you decide to get the Phantom 8, and it'll be a little less if you decide to get the Phantom 6. What I'm saying is the keyboard is very expensive, and for the price, the fact that you can't play the piano like a piano with a couple of sounds layered together is a real big demerit to me. There is no reason why today in 2023, but this keyboard came out in 2019, there's no reason why a keyboard made in 2019 cannot give us more polyphony. If you think about all of the processing power that is now out there, the kind of processors and stuff that we find in our phones, in our tablets, in our computers, even an old tablet or even an old phone or even an old computer is going to be to do a whole lot better than this when it comes to polyphony. So I just don't understand why we're using these old, dated, slow, not necessarily slow, but old and dated processors is inside of these keyboards, so that we're working with 128 voice stereo voice polyphony. Now, my Roland XV3080, I've talked about in other videos. I had my Roland XV3080 in the year 2000, and that was 128 voice polyphony. I used to have a Motif ES, and I think I had that in about 2003. That was 128 voice polyphony. And then in 2019, you come out with a keyboard, and here it is. It functions with 128 voice stereo polyphony. That's not much of an improvement over the past 20 years. Think of the cell phones that were out 20 something years ago versus the cell phones that are out now. There were no iPhones. There were no iPads. I mean, think about the computers and stuff that are out now. This is an M1 Mac. What is it? An M1 Max Studio or M1? Anyway, I can't call the name out exactly, but it's a computer. My computer in my studio is an M1 computer by Apple, and it has the Apple silicone chip inside. It has 10 cores in the processor, right? Layering, 3 sounds using my VSTs and getting any kind of crackling or notes dropping out is just completely unheard of. Yes, I could set up a test and I could really max it out if I wanted to, and I could get it to crackle. I could get, my DAW and stuff. I could get it to crash, but it's going to take something like, 180 tracks, 200 tracks, or some crazy, CPU intensive reverb. And I'd have to put like 16 or 17 instances of that same reverb on one channel. It's going to take something crazy in order to get it to stutter, something that you're not going to actually do when you're actually making music. But when I did this here, I'm not doing anything. I'm not like just setting up a stress test and seeing how much, what I can do with the polyphony. It's just playing a regular song like I'm playing a piano. So no matter what you think about how good the sounds are, like whether or not you like this sound or whether or not you like this sound, or whether or not you like the pad, you can say, hey, this is the best pad I've ever heard in the world, right? You may really like the sounds, and you may say, well, it sounds so much better than Yamaha or so much better than Korg or so much better than, but no matter how wonderful the sounds are, if the notes are cutting out, if the notes are actually cutting out, it doesn't sound good, right? So So what are we doing in 2019 and having notes and stuff cutting out? I'm not doing a stress test. I just layered 3 sounds and playing. Now it's supposed to be capable of layering a total of 16 sounds all together. Can you really play 16 sounds all at once? Probably not in any real practical sense. Now, I don't know anybody who's really using 16, a stack of 16 sounds and trying to play it like a piano. So that would be, a little bit more unrealistic. But to layer 3 sounds together and to be able to play, and of course, and so I went over the workarounds on purpose. Just so that people can see, I'm aware that you can do some workarounds. You can use the vPiano sound engine. I'm aware that, I'm using quite a bit of sustain. You can let up off the sustain pedal. I could play less notes. I could go into voice reserve and I could change the voice reserve settings. I could remove partials. But why in 2019 am I having to do all of these workarounds and all of this stuff in order just to play 3 sounds in a keyboard that cost $4,000? 3 sounds to play 3 sounds and paying $4,000 for the keyboard. I think that our keyboard manufacturers need to start giving us better specs, better internals, better processors. Now, there's a whole lot of different things I could complain about the Roland Fantom. I could talk about the sampler. Hey, the sampler doesn't have time stretching, right? The sampler, you can't pitch samples up and down. You can't reverse samples. You can't fade them in and fade them out. So it's not really a full-featured sampler. It's rather anemic. I could talk about the sequencer. And sequencer, it's a pattern sequencer. It's not a traditional linear sequencer. So you're not going to get that linear sequencing. If you just want to hit record and play, you can't. It's going to cap you at 64 bars and then it's going to loop. Now it's got an arranger so you can record your various loops and then you can arrange them in a linear fashion, but you can't record in a traditional linear fashion. That's something that, hey, I could complain about. Hey, the Fantom G, it had 128, I believe, 128 track sequencer inside. This is only a 16 track sequencer. That's something that, hey, maybe I could complain about, but I can see where Roland was kind of going and how they were going for connectivity and so on and so forth. And they were trying to make a keyboard really that plays nicely with all of your other stuff. This is why it is my main keyboard in the studio. The DAW integration is absolutely amazing. So connectivity on the back of the keyboard is absolutely amazing. I've even taken it out before and recorded right inside of it, right into my computer through this, using this as my audio interface, plugged up my microphone into here, used Phantom power. It really has a lot of great features. And I could see, hey, maybe Roland is just going in a different direction and they're not trying to create a keyboard in which someone's going to create an entire project just on the keyboard itself. Now you can, right? But just know that there are going to be some limitations. But it really works well and stuff with the DAW and whatnot. But not being able to play 3 sounds at the same time without worrying about polyphony and having to test to see if it's actually going to work, maybe removing some partials, maybe choosing some different sounds and making all of these compromises on something that costs $4,000 to me in 2019 when it came out seems ridiculous. And here we are in 2023 and of course it's still their flagship and it just doesn't manage polyphony very well. Now, it's not just Roland that does this. The Yamaha Montage has 128 voice stereo polyphony in the AWM2 sound engine. And then the FM sound engine has 128 voice polyphony as well. Now, the way that polyphony seems to be managed seems to be better than the Roland. I get less voices and stuff cutting out. I get a lot cutting out on here. It's less prevalent on there. It's even way less prevalent on the Chord Chronos because my Chord Chronos is the sound engines. The polyphony is dynamically allocated between sound engines when you're in combination mode and so on and so forth. So this is like the Roland Fantom is the worst of them when it comes to the polyphony. But I just think that in 2023, 2019 when this came out, we should be able to take any 3 sounds, layer them together, and not have an issue. Because if I take a setup with VSTs and stuff like that and use a laptop, I will not have any kind of issues like this whatsoever. And processors, that are powerful can be put into the keyboards. And there's always, different reasons that people give, oh, well, it's more expensive to produce this and produce that and the flash memory and this and that. And I'm not a software engineer. And those are not things that me or any other musician should. Now, I'm a nerd and I really get really deep into that stuff. But those are not things that me or any other musician should really have to worry about. I should be able to walk up to this keyboard, as much as it costs, layer 3 sounds, hold the sustain pedal, and not worry about voices cutting out, because the keyboard costs entirely too much money. So with that said, in the channel, I'm going to be doing more videos and stuff coming up, and I'm going to be talking about the VSTs and stuff that I use, because maybe about 80% of the sounds that I use when I'm working in the studio are VSTs. I'm normally using my computers, my VSTs and stuff like that. And that's when I'm really doing serious studio work. That's what I'm normally using. And so I'll be talking a lot more about that. And I'm starting to use a lot more VSTs and stuff live because of limitations like this. And so now with the M1, chips and stuff that are out, and the reliability that I'm starting to see with the computers and stuff like that, it's really hard to just not to switch. I am a major hardware person. I will always have hardware. Well, as far as I can tell, I will always have hardware. I love hardware. I love the way it feels. I love the workflow, and I love having buttons and knobs and sliders and stuff like that. I just love something about hardware, probably because it's what I grew up playing. But I'm telling you, there's a younger generation that's coming up that's all VSTs, all computers, that's all they're using. And they have their controllers and they have their computers, and they're going to town, and they're making their backing tracks, and they're putting on their concerts and stuff like that. And the stuff really sounds phenomenal, and they don't have the same limitations that we have when it comes to hardware. So I think our companies really need to figure it out, get it together, start making some more powerful stuff, give us better stuff. Otherwise, they're going to be so niche that there's not going to be a whole lot of people buying hardware keyboards with these kind of limitations. Okay, so anyway, that's my opinion. That's what I think on the matter. I think that we should be getting more for our money, but you can let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching this video and sticking with me with this critique as far as the Roland Fantom is concerned. I would like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys on the next video.